everyone. Welcome to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton. Welcome everyone to another day of FM Training.tv, where every day we're working with the Claris FileMaker platform, doing great things with it. Sometimes, in fact, a lot of times, it's not me doing the great stuff. It's you folks in the audience doing the great stuff, and then you come on the show and tell us about it. And it's very exciting when that happens. Some of you come on, show us little free snuggly things that are free little widgets. Some of you come on and show us big commercial projects that are available. I don't show a ton of commercial products. However, there are a handful of companies that I invite on the show, and today's going to be one of those days. Now, before I do, well, because it's so essential, it's what I consider essential software for the Claris FileMaker platform. And so it kind of like has my endorsement. So yes, real quick, let's talk about the upcoming broadcast schedule. If I hit the live team stream training schedule, today we got Skyscraper with Jesse Barnum. Tomorrow is interesting. So today is awesome. Tomorrow's awesome as well. All these days are awesome. Jesse Barnum, are you there? Are you ready for a spicy, exciting show with us today?
I am here, and I think I'm ready.
He thinks he's ready.
I'm never sure if I'm ready or not until I'm actually doing the thing.
Well, because I'm a little bit of a wild man. I get all that. People are afraid of me, but I'm really a nice guy. All right, so real quick, I'm going to pivot off of sharing my screen. Stop sharing. And then you're going to share your screen. Let me open this up briefly here for all of you. So 360Works is, I go long time back with them, way back. And this company builds essential FileMaker software that helps bridge the gap with missing piece of the platform. Back in the day, they had a product called Super Container, which is really, in my opinion, where they became kind of famous, right?
That was like 2006.
Yeah, it goes way back. And
been a while.
Yeah, and the thing was, they were successful because it was an essential piece of software that Claris or FileMaker Inc. at the time said, like, digital document management, we don't need to do any of that, literally. And so And then 85% of my customers, 90% of my customers all went to Jesse and bought his product. I mean, everyone was buying it. And then Claris went, oh yeah, and we should put that in the product. So it's small business leads larger business because we're agile and moving fast and that kind of thing. That's not uncommon. So anyway, you move forward. The digital document management to some level is built in the FileMaker platform. So then 360Works comes out with something that was codenamed Hamster Ball, which was better known as the MirrorSync product. It's a synchronization. We've had them on the show a bunch. So MirrorSync is essential, a critical product. One of my engineers, even right now, is rolling out with a customer that's never had it before. They didn't know about it, and we had to educate them on it, and it's a brand new installation. So he has a long history of doing awesome stuff. So Jesse called me the other day and says, Richard, I've been on the show in a long time. I feel really bad about that. How can I make it up to you? I said, build a new product and show it to us. And so that's what he did. And so Jesse is here with a new product called Skyscraper, which I kind of loosely have a thought about. But if you want to walk us through what this is and why it's awesome and how it makes us more, how does it make the audience more awesome?
Yeah, so Skyscraper is so just to quickly give like a one-sentence version of what it is, it's a virtual desktop infrastructure platform that runs in a web browser. So the idea basically is that we had three kind of categories of problems we were trying to solve with this. One, which was a very real thing, is that a lot of our hosting customers were saying, I want to be able to do bulk operations. I want to be able to go onto my server and RDP in there and import stuff and export stuff and do replace operations and do data cleanup and stuff like that. And we don't really like our customers RDPing into the FileMaker server boxes to do that. It's just a bad idea.
It's a bad idea because bad people, that's one of the great ways that bad people get into your stuff.
And and you know, you can't get viruses on your software on your server if nobody's using it. If it's just running as a server and nobody ever opens a web browser like that, you're really safe. So we just try to prevent people from doing stupid things on their servers. So that was one thing so what we've always done historically for that is we've set up them a separate dedicated box that runs 24/7 so that they can RDP into that box to do all those kinds of stuff. And it's a lot faster than doing it, on your own computer because you're going across a local network instead of a wide area network. So that was one kind of problem statement. The second one is we had several customers that just could not get their IT groups to install FileMaker Pro on their users' computers. And they didn't have a thing that worked well with WebDirect. And so it was just a real problem. And we thought about trying to set up RDP for people, But then the idea of just running those boxes 24/7 so that somebody could connect in every now and then to do stuff seemed extremely inefficient. So it's a solution to that kind of problem of when you
So
can't have FileMaker Pro installed on your desktop computer.
and you're saying that WebDirect is not really the full Monty of what
WebDirect
you
is a,
need.
I think WebDirect is a good solution for 60% of problems.
Okay.
But there's a sizable chunk of problems that either because of authentication issues or features that aren't there or integration with desktop applications, or just the multi-file solutions don't work particularly well in WebDirect. There's just a lot of cases of kind of things that, I mean, if WebDirect fits really well with your solution, that's probably the way you should do it. But there's a fair number of ones that don't fit well with WebDirect. Third problem, and the last one I'll mention, is just speed. People often say, hey, FileMaker Server was a lot faster when it was on premises. Now I've got it hosted. It's not bad, but it's that we would like it to be faster. And so, if you've ever used any sort of remote screen sharing software like RDP, you know that it's generally faster to RDP into the server and do stuff than it is to work on your own computer remotely to that server. So those are the three categories of problems we were trying to solve in Skyscraper.
So I think conversations are already starting. So people are already saying, so this is not a way of getting out of buying FileMaker, correct?
No, this does not get you out of buying FileMaker.
Right. So why don't you just instead of we're talking a lot about, why don't you, before we go dive into, or before we do a deep analysis, can you just jump in and do something?
Yeah.
Make it go.
Make it go. So, we had a conversation today in the office. We said, how are we going to do this demo? And I said, let's do it Rachel Ray style. We're gonna do a cooking show version of this where we're going to put something in the oven and then we're going to show you what it looks like after you've baked it, because it takes about 10 or 15 minutes to do some of the setup stuff, and I don't want to make anybody sit around. So I'm going to start off by
okay. What we're going to do is we're going to sample Rachel Ray's food at the beginning of the show to decide if we want to keep watching the show.
That's right. We've got our new website is 360works.cloud. We are 360works.com, but we have decided to partition hosting off into its own different domain. So we get him here, we log in. I'm going to log in as an admin. This is Cognito. If you guys, if anyone on the call has used AWS single sign-on stuff, they like Cognito, and this is the Cognito authentication screen that you get. So I'm logged in here as an organization admin, which means that I can administer all of our servers, all of our users, and all of our Skyscraper stuff. But this is the 360Works hosting portal. Just like 5 minutes before we got on the call, I did a quick test to set up a server in Stockholm. That's done. Just to show you what it looks like, I'm going to set up another quick server in Stockholm. We are now running on Linux. We still offer Windows, but we are going to have all of our new customers by default on Linux instead of Windows. And we're working on ways to get all of our existing customers an option if they want to switch to Linux. So
that'll make Jacob Taylor happy.
Yeah, it's just better. It spins up faster. It's easier to administer, in my opinion. It's easier to SSH in. I'd much rather SSH in than RDP in. So you can pick where your server is. We've got a lot of locations. We run an AWS. We support all 62 AWS regional and local zones. So there's 22 in the US and Canada. There's another 40 around the world. We've got 4 here in South America. I say we, Amazon has 2 in Africa, 4 in the Middle East. I don't know, maybe like a dozen in Europe, a bunch over here in India, Asia Pacific.
So these are all regions, or these are because you're doing EC2, right? Or some sort of EC2. Yep,
we're doing EC2. And so AWS has what they call regions and local zones. So they have, I think it's 20 to 22 regions. These are like their primary data centers that offer like the full catalog of AWS services.
Okay.
Then they've got another 40 or so local zones, like Atlanta, for instance. I'm in the Atlanta area. I'm really happy that there's now an Atlanta local zone, so I can actually spin up a FileMaker server.
Back up. So EC2 is available in a local zone, or in some of them?
Yes, that's correct.
I did not know that. That was okay.
Yes. Yeah, it's a little more expensive, and if I show you our pricing page, you can see that. If I go to pricing, so this is like the base cost for our servers. This is for a Linux server. Okay. So it's $75 a month for like most of the US regions on Linux. I'll talk more about the Skyscraper cost in a minute, but you can see it goes up a little bit when you get to San Francisco. There's the electricity costs a little bit more there. And then you've got all of these ones that are $105 a month. These are all your local zones. So we've got Kansas City, Las Vegas, Boston.
About a third more? Is that what they are?
Yeah, I guess that's about a fourth more. Maybe.
Fourth.
Yeah.
Of course, then you got a couple down
there.
there.
You're right. You're right. About a third more.
Yeah.
My math is off.
And then you got a
Um,
couple down there at the bottom that are kind of more pricey for whatever.
yeah, if you go run to Lagos in Africa, that was a funny one. I was like, this has got to be a typo. So we run in all 62 AWS data centers, both the regional data centers and the local zone data centers.
Okay.
And so I'm gonna pick Stockholm. I was in Stockholm a few years ago for like a mini DevCon there, and I loved it. It was really, really cool.
All right.
So we pick our area, we pick our size. Our standard sizes are 2 CPUs, 4 gigs, 2 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, 4 CPUs, 16 gigs. But we can customize it to anything. They have AWS has configurations with literally hundreds of CPUs
Yeah. Yeah.
and terabytes
It's
of,
overwhelming
of
number of
RAM.
options they have. Yeah. So.
Yeah, yeah. So if one of these three things doesn't fit your bill, just let us know and we'll set you up with whatever you need. So I go there, I pick a time zone. The time zone doesn't have to be where the server is. I'm setting up my server in Stockholm, but I'm going to say I'm in Eastern US so that I see my times there. Give it the server name. It's always going to be Stockholm. It's going to be something.360works.cloud, as you can see here. We do support if you want to set up your own domain name, so it's yourcompany.com, but it always starts off 360works.cloud, and then you'll upload your SSL certificate after the initial setup. And then you tell us, to the question about does this get you out of running FileMaker, buying FileMaker? No, it does not. You still need a license. We can help you get it. You can get it yourself, or in this case, I already have one. So I'm going to just click there and pick my license certificate. You can pick a support level. We do offer priority support, which is like 7 a.m. to 11 p.m. 7 days a week. MirrorSync hosting is included, no extra charge if you want it. If you want us to help you migrate your data over, you can do that. And then yes, we do want automatic setup. And we go to next. This screen I want to just pause on for just a moment. And I do really want to get into the demo part, but I don't want to I won't come back to these screens. So I just want to talk about it, but while I'm on them. We've set up a thing so that if you have hosting customers of your own, you can do that. You can set up an organization, and then we have some people with 30 or 40 customers of their own that each have their own separate billing and everything like that. So you can do that. You can set up your organization, and then you can set up accounts with your organization. Each account can have one or more FileMaker servers, and they can have their own billing preferences. And then we're done. I'm going to click Let's Go. And now we'll see that we get a little spinny deal. We should. All right.
Okay.
Demo bug number 1. I'm making some notes here.
Well, so you set up a second Stockholm server, right? So this should be one that's already running and one that's setting up.
Oh, that's what I did. I named it. I incorrectly named it Stockholm 2 because my first one that I set up, I already had one named Stockholm 2.
Yeah, you might want to do a check on that in your code to make sure that if the name's already being used, it doesn't allow the person to sign up again.
It's supposed to do that, but yeah.
Okay, moving along.
All right, now I'm going to get into what it does. So now I get to the Skyscraper part. And Skyscraper so what we just was looking at was the FileMaker server aspect of it. Once you've got your FileMaker server, then you can set up your Skyscraper instances. These are all demo users that we've got set up. And I am going to go to my Skyscraper box, Jesse Barnum, and I'm going to click launch. And launch is now going to boot up my instance. So we've got a bunch of demo boxes.
Hydrating the cloud, making sure the ducks are quacking. They're not dead ducks. That's nice. So
what's happening right now is that the spinning that we're getting is because we're booting up a Windows box right now. And we're booting that up. These boxes are all in San Francisco. And so I'm in Atlanta, so it's going to be a little bit slow for me, but it's still actually quite snappy. And now Google is saying, do you want to allow clipboard transfer? Yes, I do want to allow clipboard transfer. Connected to Skyscraper, waiting for a response.
There it goes.
So yeah, this should look fairly familiar. And let me point out, before I start doing anything in here, let me just point out a few things. Number one, I'm in a browser. I'm in my web browser.
Okay, so let me try, Jesse, I'm going to help here a little bit because I'm sure people are seeing this as a screen. So I have this green, okay, let's back up. The green thing around the outside edge, that's your actual desktop of your computer there where you're at in Atlanta, right? Correct?
Yes. So yes.
So then I see a browser window with 3 tabs in it. And inside, or 4 tabs actually, inside this tab right here, is this a Windows This is a Windows desktop
This is an
interface.
actual full-blown Windows instance that is running in San Francisco right now. And we're streaming the desktop of that Windows computer to my desktop here in Atlanta via a browser, not, and this is an important part, not using an RDP desktop client protocol. So there's nothing that your users need to install.
Can you minimize this and show us the desktop? Just so I would start there.
Yep.
No, not that. That's your desktop. I'm talking about the desktop of the Windows computer that's there. There we go. He goes in here. You see the trash can. You see the stuff. Is this Windows 11? Is this Windows 11?
This is Windows Server 2022.
Okay, so the desktop is whatever window. I don't personally play with Windows Server 2022, but it looks a lot like Windows.
Either.
I don't, but I have Windows 11 for testing, Pro testing on my desk, and it looks a lot like this.
Yeah, and so this is a full-blown computer. You've got access to everything on the hard drive. Here's FileMaker. You can want to run a browser inside here. I wouldn't really recommend running a browser on a Windows instance inside of a browser, going back to your browser. It's not, but you can do it.
So then when you were in FileMaker, you were in FileMaker Pro Windows, correct?
Yes. And there is a reason that I wanted to start it up in the FileMaker view, because we're using a really cool feature called Hibernate. And what Hibernate does, I'm going to show you something cool. Well,
Hibernate in the world of FileMaker is an engineering term that means it kind of pauses, and when you come back, it resumes where you were.
That's a perfect analogy of what we're doing. I could actually, I can't easily demo it because I can't shut this box down without waiting 2 minutes for it to shut down.
No, that's fine. You don't have to do that.
But if I were to do this, I'll just talk about it. If I were to come here and these are unsaved changes, ignore my typos.
Now,
if I were to close out of this box and it would get shut down, it would actually get shut down. There's a 2-minute delay.
Okay, back up. You're talking about the little X at the top of the tab where it says Skyscraper up there, your tab up there?
I'm talking about, right here. If I were to close this tab.
I'm going to turn on my annotations and start drawing here. So you close that tab, then there's a 2-minute. So if you do within that 2 minutes, go ahead and do it real quick within the 2 minutes. How long does that take? If we just go back.
If I launch this back now, it hasn't been 2 minutes. The instance should still be running.
Go ahead
and hit come up fairly quickly. So I just hit launch.
2, 3, 4, 5. I'm not being mean. 6. 7, 8, 9. Did you have to log in, or did it do that automatically?
I didn't touch it. Once I clicked that launch button, I didn't touch anything.
So that was about what, 10, 15 seconds, something like that. It was pretty quick.
10 seconds, yeah.
Okay, great. So then if we go through the whole 2-minute dog and pony show, it's, what was it, like 30 or 40 seconds to open the first time?
My benchmarks are about 35 seconds.
Okay, great.
If we had waited longer than 2 minutes and this machine had shut down, like completely shut down, and then we had started it back up, and it takes 35 seconds to start up, it would actually take us right back here with this unsaved document open in our foreground, and we would actually still be connected as a guest to FileMaker server in the background.
I get that. Well, hopefully everyone I get that, because I understand what hibernation is, but I trained on hibernation with Claris, because when they came out with Go, that was an important component of the product, and it still is. So it's going to perfectly restore your. Now, here's what I was going to say. Is that you need to outline the differences between this and, say, RDC 1, okay? And outline the difference between this and like Citrix/terminal services, which is something from like 20 some odd years ago. So how is it different? Because those are like virtual environments, but you're acting like this is its own real Windows virtual server. So
it's really very similar to using RDP to connect to a Windows instance. What we're doing that's different than that is that, number one, we're managing that process of starting up that box and then connecting you to it. So you're not having to, there is no control panel that you go to on EC2. You don't have to give your users admin access to get into the AWS console to turn their box on and off. We're creating a login experience for the user so that each user gets their own specific assigned workstation. And when they click the launch button, we're launching it for them, and then we're connecting it to them, as opposed to RDP, where they would need to go into an EC2 console or some other, application that you built, start the application, then switch to their RDP client, launch it, create a session, log in with their username and password. It's just a lot more steps.
Well,
So
and not
it's the
just
same idea, just way less steps and no software to install.
well, yeah, but it's okay. That's simpler, but the big thing these days is the ransomware stuff, right? And that's not an
Mm-hmm.
uncommon deal. And so, if I say that I want to start phishing someone that works for your company or someone that works, not even your company, it's not a good example. Random company XYZ. If I go fishing on them, I start doing social media and phishing, and they figure out that I like helicopters, and I click on every helicopter link I see, right? Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
stupid. And I say, would you like to install secret exe.helicopter because it might be unsafe? And I go, yeah, of course. They get my passwords. Now, if I'm using RDC to get into my system, then that's much more dangerous because they would get access to RDC through there. But if they had access to through Skyscraper, how much trouble could they get in? They could potentially get into FileMaker and play with it, but they couldn't destroy the server
Yeah, if
right?
your users they each have a box, and the box is isolated to each user. So they could basically do whatever the user would be able to do on the box. I don't have access on this box to SSH or screen share to my FileMaker server. So I can't directly access the operating system of my box. Whereas if I was using RDP to connect in directly to my FileMaker server box, then it's a different story. Then they're accessing my FileMaker server directly, in the operating system as an administrator.
Yeah. So the idea is that the issue is that your user could probably go in, and if you allow them to delete records, say you did, they could delete records, but the ransomware people want to delete all the backups and all this other
Mm-hmm.
pervasive
Which we've talked
retro.
about on your show before when we talked
Yeah,
about
we
safety net.
talked about that. Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm bringing this all back. So,
Yeah.
David Angel wants to know, could remote app, I guess he's asking, could it look like your computer in the remote app? I mean, it's Windows. I mean, it's going to look a lot like your computer if you use Windows. If you're a Mac user, it's going to be like, okay, I'm using Windows. And you
Yeah,
have to
that's
decide
exactly right.
how much you hate that or doesn't bother you, right?
That's exactly right. You're not going to be able to get a Mac looking experience. Apple does not allow virtualization of their operating system. And so there is no data center anywhere that is going to be able to give you a virtualized Mac desktop experience. So that's just a brick wall. So yeah, the Windows is, if FileMaker ever makes a Linux version of FileMaker Pro, which would be pretty freaking cool, then that might look a lot nicer, but that's just a matter of personal preference. Um, let's do one thing really quick. Anybody who would like to try this out themselves, and instead of watching me click around on it, they'd like to click around on it for themselves.
Boy, I tell you, that's a popular thing on this show. Who here wants to actually try this out
Yeah,
for themselves?
we've got 14 demo boxes set up. So whoever the
Ooh.
first 14 people are to get on Discord,
I need 14 victims. Come forward. Okay,
who
Lynn
would
from
like to give
Austin.
this a shot.
Lynn from Austin is number one.
All right. So I've got my guys standing right next to me, and they are monitoring this, and they are going to send a private message to each person with the credentials to try this out. So
All right.
while we're getting people signing up, let me answer your other question about what's the difference between this and, like, say, Citrix or Terminal Services or something like that. One big difference between those is the amount of hardware that you have to provision. So in the case of Skyscraper, each user gets their own box. So if Bill and Sally both start their boxes, you're just getting your organization is being charged for the two of them. And the lowest charges, like in Virginia, start at about 12 cents an hour. It's like $7.60 a month for the storage, and then it's 12 cents an hour for the usage. And so you're only getting charged for the time that they're using it. Contrast that to like Citrix Server. With Citrix Server, typically what you do is you say, we think the most number of users we're ever going to have is X. Now multiply that by the number of CPUs and the amount of RAM per user that we want, and that's how much CPU and RAM we want for the box. So I did a little bit of quick math before I got on here, and what did I come up with? So the base Skyscraper configuration is 2 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs and 4 gigs of RAM. Imagine that you wanted to have 16 people on there. So you wanted to have 32 CPUs and 64 gigs of RAM. That would cost you $2.83 per hour, which is the equivalent of paying for 24 copies of Skyscraper, whether they're running or not. So you're paying $2.83 an hour 24/7 to run that very large box because you have to provision it at the most number of users that could connect in.
Okay, I have some questions to follow on, but I want to keep directing air traffic control. So Adam at 360Works, Alexi on Twitch wants to try it.
What you'll find if you connect into here and you start clicking around is that it's very quick. And remember, keep in mind the server and the workstations are all in San Francisco. I'm in Atlanta. I can tab back and forth between all these things, and it's very fast for me as I'm doing it. We haven't done that much data entry, so I don't know how much there is. Like in calendars, is probably pretty empty and stuff. Where you're really going to see a big difference between this and working directly in FileMaker Pro is when you get to anything that involves summarizing, reporting, lists, and large batch operations. That stuff is going to happen basically instantaneously when you're on the same local network as the server, and really, really slowly when you're in a wide area network connection to the server. So that's really kind of the sweetest spot for this, is when you have a solution that is constrained by the amount of data that's trying to push over a wide area network pipe. That's when you get your biggest performance benefit from running on the same local area network as the server. A few other things to mention is that here, I want to show you guys a really cool thing that we actually recently got working, which is printing. So actually, before I show you printing, let me show you file transfers, and then printing feeds into that. So I'm going to hide this window for a second. Let me do a file transfer, and then let's stop and take a question or two. So I'm going to get back into Notepad. I'm going to save this on my desktop. Okay, so now I've got this exciting file. I'm going to go to this PC. I'm going to go to your computer, and there's a download folder here. Anything I drop into downloads or save into downloads, if you that kind of went fast, you might have missed it. But basically, it just immediately downloaded into my downloads folder in my browser. So now I've got a local copy of this file that I can open on my own computer. So that's how file transfer downloads work. Let's say I've made changes to it. You know what? There's a better way to demo this. I'm going to save this directly into, there's a folder on my computer. Oh, no. Here's what I want to do. I want to save it into my demos folder. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to demonstrate this. Okay, that's a really boring name, but that's okay. It's Untitled 86. Now I just drag this here, like I'm dragging any file. I'm going to get a little file transfers window. And that will now go into that your computer folder, and there's my Untitled 86. So that's how file transfers happen back and forth. I've got one thing that's going to tie into that, and then I'm going to jump over to questions. So let's talk about printing. I'm in FileMaker. I want to print what I'm seeing. I go to File, Print. By default, your option is Microsoft Print to PDF. That's just built in and automatic. So I say yes, print to PDF. Where do I want to save it? Same place. I'm going to go into this PC, your computer, download. I'm going to call it print. It saves it in that same folder. And just like my text document, it's printing right now. Just like my text document, it now pops it open on my local computer because it pops open automatically from the browser. And now I can print a hard copy of it in my office. So that's how file transfers and printing work. I got more to talk about, but I want to stop and take questions because questions are way more fun than me just talking.
So Stephen Delinsky asked a really good question. I'm assuming that's Agent FM Forums, and so he asked a really good question. I want to just give you a chance to expand upon this. So when you say that this is its own machine, right? Let's talk about that briefly, what that really means. Because when we go to EC, so back out for EC2, most of the people here who've been around the block for a while know what an EC2 instance is. It's a virtual server that's virtualized by Amazon. They have refrigerator, whatever, these rack-mounted boxes, big boxes, and you're renting a slice of a real server, and it's virtualized. So when you log into one of these, are you getting one of those, or have you virtualized their virtualization?
No,
does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you're asking. It's not like a Docker instance, for instance, which would be like virtualizing inside of a virtualization. You're basically getting the same thing that you would get if you went yourself to your own AWS account and you went to EC2 and you said, create an instance for me.
So back up. So you are logging.
We're really just creating
an EC2 instance.
We're creating a management layer that runs on top of an existing EC2 layer.
Okay, so if I have 20 people and they all log in, then we have 20 EC2 instances that you have helped us with, but there are 20 EC2 instances that we're running at that period of time, correct?
Yeah, I'm going to show you a little bit behind the scenes here.
Wow.
So here is a list. This is actually, and I wasn't really planning on giving kind of this behind the scenes tour, but it seems like people are really interested. What we do is that for each box that gets set up, so this is demo 2, demo 19, demo 20, demo 18, you'll notice that for each of them, there's a pair of boxes. We set up a Linux box and a Windows box. The Windows box is what you're seeing. The Linux box is what's doing the translation and turning it into HTML protocol. We could have done that on the Windows box and saved a little bit of money and only run one box instead of two. But by doing it this way, we put no load on the Windows box. So you're getting 100% of the CPU to do your FileMaker stuff. You're not getting 70% of it to do the FileMaker stuff and
Okay.
30% of it to send
I'm going
the
to
screen update.
interrupt. This is awesome. This is
Thank you.
awesome. I thought you were doing a virtualization on top of a virtualization on top of a virtual world. And this is actually, you're spinning up for each user, they're getting two machines to make sure they get maximum horsepower.
And dedicated to those users. So like if each user customizes their box and downloads and installs something, it's that that's their box.
This is a graphic that I use to explain to people. It's actually animated in our training videos. People, why our training is so expensive, because we pay to animate them, so they animate. So this is FileMaker Server. It's not in your office. It's up in an Amazon big warehouse someplace and it's mostly, they're not marked because they don't want terrorists blowing them up. So they're mostly unmarked buildings.
Yeah, it's hard to find the actual street addresses of Amazon.
Yeah, it's all secret, 007 secret. So here's the deal with these things is that FileMaker, so here's a fundamental of FileMaker. Most systems this way, but FileMaker is really sensitive to this. If your FMP12 file is running on this server, the fastest possible access would be for you to have a machine, you to get a desk in the Amazon warehouse on the rack on the shelf right next to it. So the Ethernet cables are going to the same switch, right? And so that would be the only thing faster than that is to take it off the server, the file off the server and put it on your personal computer, but then you're not sharing it, you're not hosting it, you're not collaborating all the benefits of FileMaker. So you put
Unless
on
you're using MirrorSync.
So if you park the
great.
file up there and you want to have access and you have badge access to, I've actually been in back in the day in some of these data centers where I would actually go in and plug in a machine on the rack and be next to the FileMaker server, and it was like super secure. It was the coolest shit ever. However, most of us, and I can't do that anymore. And so what Jesse is doing is Jesse on this diagram. So Jesse's like, hey, we're going to like put this wire up here and it's going to cut. And this is like the switch. And this is in the building of Amazon. So where there's a switch, we're going to wire up here. There's a little wire, it comes up here. And then up here, oh, where's my drawing? There's another server. And you actually get two servers. This is under the hood sauce, but it doesn't matter. You have a machine here, and this is your copy of Pro. And as you're interacting with Pro, it's going to talk to this and back and forth, but it's going to be super close, super fast. The latency will be probably, what, half a millisecond latency, Jesse, something like that?
Oh, yeah, yeah. Less, yeah.
Okay. To go from a FileMaker server to this person over here, even if they're like Jesse's in the same part of the country or something, this is probably 30 milliseconds. Okay, a half of a and if you're in a 5-story building, you might have a half a millisecond from the bottom floor to the top floor. So the whole idea is that all the slow performance issues, a lot of them get removed if you if you do what Jesse's doing here. Now, you can always build bad solutions, like you're going to summarize 1 million records every time you pop a layout. There's no helping stupid, right? You don't want to do that in the FileMaker platform. However, you can mitigate performance issues by using this, right?
Yeah, and your typical latency on a wide area network, if I'm connecting from Atlanta to Virginia, for instance, I typically get about a 35 millisecond round
That's
trip
why I
time.
have the 30 right there. There's the 30.
Yep.
It turned into I don't drop, but whatever.
Yeah.
Get the idea.
And so, if you're talking about 30 milliseconds compared to half a millisecond, you're basically 60 times faster for any network, stuff going back and forth, which FileMaker is a chatty network protocol. So it's going to be about 60 times faster to do it on the same local network as the server.
I'm going to stop sharing. I'm going to put you back up to bat.
On Stephen's question about the keyboard shortcuts, Stephen, I am not personally aware of a way to do that. To basically, I know what you want to do because I want to do it too. I want my command key to work as the command key, so I can do Command C and Command V and Command X, not Control C and Control V and Control X. I think that there are ways to do that in the Mac OS keyboard preferences. I think you can say you can set per application keyboard mapping. So you could, I think, on the Mac go to say, if I'm running Google Chrome, treat the control key as a command key. I don't know if that completely answers your question or not, but that's the closest I can come to answering that question. There's probably other solutions on Windows. I'm not a Windows expert, so I don't know all the solutions, but there's not kind of just there's no simple like checkbox that says make control keys act or command keys act as a control key.
Hey, Jesse,
There is on the topic of using those particular keyboard shortcuts, I do want to point out that one of the features that is supported only in Google Chrome, unfortunately, not in Safari, is clipboard transfers. So if you're using Chrome like I am to access back and forth between these, I can select this text here. So if I select some text here and I'm in Google Chrome, and actually the reason my demo didn't work is because I did exactly what Steven was talking about. I used Command C instead of Control C. So I go to Control C. I'm just to really, really make sure that I'm doing the right thing, I'm going to copy it here. And then I'm going to come over to a text document. I'm going to paste it here. So, and same here. I can Command C over here, jump back here, select all. And to make sure I'm doing the right thing, I can copy it.
That works fine.
So clipboard transfer works fine. That is not a feature, unfortunately, that is supported in Safari, but it does work great in Google Chrome.
Okay, so there's a conversation going on in Discord right now about Edge versus Chrome versus Safari. So we recommend Chrome, which
Edge
makes
works the
sense.
same. Edge and Chrome are equivalent from everything that I've been able to observe. And Safari
Ruben?
works really well, other than the clipboard feature. I have not tried Firefox, so I don't know what the answer is on Firefox. I have experimented a little bit with an iPad. I've tried this on an iPad. It works really well with two caveats. Number one is the same clipboard issue. You're not going to be able to copy and paste between your Windows session in Skyscraper and your local, iPad operating system. The other caveat is that you really need a physical keyboard on the iPad for this to work. It's really clumsy and hard to do it if you're trying to use the keyboard built in, the glass keyboard on screen. But if you've got like a Magic Case or a folding folio or something like that that's got a keyboard on it, it actually works quite nicely on an iPad.
Code to Go is one of people who visits periodically. He says the RDP protocol offers the option to switch over the hotkeys or, at least the remote desktop software does.
Yes, I've noticed that. And one of the things that is kind of on my like nice to have list, but not quite on the roadmap, but on the nice to have list is there's no reason that we couldn't allow you to connect either in with either the browser or an RDP client. Like we can support RDP clients just fine. And there are some nice things about RDP clients, like the ability to customize your keyboard shortcuts. So that feature will probably come at some point. Is we really want to support the browser first because we want to give the user the least number of clicks to do it. And I think the IT people who set their users up for this are going to want to give the users something where they can just literally just click launch my browser and it just pops up in FileMaker. But if you prefer RDP for your stuff, that probably will come at some point that will give you an option to pick one or the other.
Real quick, so there's a conversation over here on the Discord site. I want to follow up on this a little bit. So if someone buys like 20 slots of this thing, right? So they buy 20 users of this, and as those people log in, a EC2 instance, an Amazon EC2 instance is created for them, and it spins up, and then it hibernates away when they're not using it, correct? And so Ryan is asking the question. So the machine is only, or maybe Ryan, this is one of your people, the machine is only created once and all the files that are on there persist between the sessions because that EC2 server is never terminated unless somehow that user account goes away, right?
That's correct. There is, so from a pricing standpoint, I want to show you on the pricing page, we have two pricing components. There's a storage cost and there's an hourly cost. And the storage cost is for exactly that purpose. We store that user stuff, whether they're connected or not, and it never goes away unless you terminate the box, which Richard, don't let me forget. I'll go back in there. I'll just show you how you can terminate a box if you want to. So the storage cost is going to be flat whether the user's using the box or not, because it costs money to keep their files, on that server. The usage cost is only for the times that they're running it. And that's, both of these costs are going to depend based on the location because AWS charges vary based on the location. But that's how that works. And so from a storage standpoint, the storage will be billed for as long as the instance exists. To get back into that section to show you how to get rid of that, if I went to Skyscraper, and I'm not going to do it right now, I've been using demo 19. If I wanted to get rid of my own box, I would click here, and I would go to Control Panel, and I would do Destroy. And then when I do Destroy, all of the user's files are gone, and you're no longer being billed storage for that box. So that's how that works.
So the number of users you set up is totally dynamic?
Yes.
So
you can set up 1 or 1,000 users, whatever you want.
So back up. So if I buy Skyscraper from you, I'm not going to buy, hey, Jesse, I want a 20-pack of Skyscraper.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
No, you just add users under the account section. Right here. Here's the users that we've set up.
Okay.
Now adding a user makes it so that there's no billing for adding users. Adding users costs $0. But then once you've got the users, then you can go to Skyscraper and there's your list of users. And for any users that don't have a box yet, you can click on the box. All of these users have boxes already. But you could click on here and then you would be able to set. I'm going to click on this active one just to show what it looks like. But this is where you would actually pick the configuration that you want, and then you would hit apply changes, and then you start getting the storage fees from the moment that you do that. But and the configurations that we offer for Skyscraper are exact same as for FileMaker Server. 2 CPUs, 4 gigs of RAM, 2 CPUs, 8 gigs of RAM, or 4 CPUs, 16 gigs of RAM. And just like FileMaker Server, it can be customized to whatever. If you've got somebody that's doing something crazy and they're like, I need 128 gigs of RAM, we can do that.
I got a dumb question though. I mean, I don't buy a computer at all anymore, at least it has a less 16 gigs of RAM, and anymore I'm trying to buy more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And this is for the Windows people out there, can you successfully use a desktop client with 2 cores and 4 gigs of RAM and not have it just fall over being stupid? Is that
all the demos that we're doing right now are that configuration. Everyone who's connected live is using two CPU cores and 4 gigs of RAM.
By the way, if anyone else wants to connect live, let us know. All right, so Lynn from Austin says, how would I print to my office printer? We covered that a little bit, but you want to try it again,
Just a super quick recap. You go to File, Print. You make sure you've got it set here, Microsoft Print to PDF. You hit OK. And then it's going to ask you where you want to save the PDF. It's going to be this PC, your computer, download, and then name it something. It'll print that, and then it'll automatically pop it open in your PDF viewer, and then you would actually print the piece of paper here from your local computer onto your local
Okay,
computer.
I can tell you for some employees or some companies, and I could think of, a couple people that are not overly technically savvy, that's going to be a big lift for those push buttons.
We're working on ways to make that particular process less steps. I think that once a user does it once, they're going to be able to do it as many times as they want, but it is more steps than I'd like it to be for that very first time that they do it. So we're looking into ways to make that smoother.
Oh, so if you do it the first time, it saves it, right?
Oh. Yeah, you basically you do a print. There is the only real difference between, there's basically like 4 extra clicks. You need to select your computer, select a particular folder, and give it a name. And then the print dialog itself when you hit the last print thing. So it is, if you were doing something that was requiring you to print 100 times a day, this might be annoying. I think if you're printing 2 or 3 times a day, which is more than I do, then I don't see there being a big problem.
Yeah, mine's all automated anyway. A lot of times,
and you can automate that process so that when you hit a print button, it could run a FileMaker script that just does save a PDF into that downloads folder and pops it open on your computer.
That would be the way to go. Okay, is everything as expected, or both open and encrypted managed storage? I mean, I think, yeah, this is a Windows client sitting really close to the server. So whatever the Windows client can do, which is pretty much everything.
Yes.
I don't know if that's, that's a nice question for you there. The container issue. So once again, we're talking about this some sort of magical stuff. All Jesse did is he's made an easy way for you to have a Windows server that runs basically right next to your FileMaker server. and made it fairly inexpensive. This has never been a thing before. For those of you wondering about this, this has never been a thing before because this was, I mean, I talked to Claris about this, Robert Halsey about this about 4 years ago, 5 years ago. And this stuff was like $200 per user per year, which got to be really expensive really fast. It was quite a bit more money than this, right? This is actually fairly inexpensive.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I'll throw in a miscellaneous point. I just had a few things that I wanted to make sure to mention. One is that one common request that we get from people who are interested in this, I mean, this is really new, so we haven't talked to that many people about it, but we've had two different requests from some of our early adopters that have said, I want to be able to configure a whole suite of applications for my users. For instance, I want to configure Thunderbird so that when I send an email from FileMaker, it's not using the built-in email, it's using the desktop client and it's going to their sent mail folder. Or I want to install custom fonts, or I want to do all these things. You can do that. What you can do is you set up one Skyscraper box. You configure it with all the stuff that you want, the fonts, the applications, everything like that. You shut the box down, and then you just contact us. And so you say, I want to make this box the template for all my users. We'll set that box, we'll image it, and we'll make it so that whenever new Skyscraper boxes get set up, they use that same image so that you'll be able to kind of have a preset customized environment for your users if you want that.
that's awesome. That's a good question, good answer. Stephen did ask a question. I mean, I'm just going to recap it again because he asked a good question. So you can back up the user data before terminating it. They may have left important documents on their instances. So yeah, if you do the destroy thing, right? If you press the destroy button, it's gone, right, Jesse? So
it is gone. If you wanted to back up the user's data, then you either would, oh, that reminds me of an important point that I didn't have in my notes. In here, as an administrator, if you're, for the people who are getting a Discord account and logging in and seeing this, as you've probably noticed, you only get one box in here. In fact, I don't even know if you see the one box that you get because I don't use that user view often. I'm usually an administrator, but you only see the one box, or you just don't even see the box. You just come in here to say Skyscraper and it launches. As an administrator, I can see everybody's boxes and I can log in as any user. So I could click launch on any one of these things. I'm not going to do it now because I'll boot the person, whoever is in that box. But as an administrator, I can log in as any user. And that's what I would do if I had somebody like leaving the company, or if I was going to terminate somebody's box and I wanted to make sure that their stuff was backed up, is you could just go in there and then just upload that file to Dropbox or do whatever you want to do before you terminate it. If you'd like our help managing that, you can contact us and we can snapshot it or do something like that. But we don't have an automated way to do that because it's not clear to us how we should bill for that. I mean, that storage costs money. And if you say destroy, we're kind of figuring you don't want to get paid charged anymore for that storage.
yeah, you want to make sure that there's a legal thing on that. I had first time the other day I had a customer, well, not really, not an active customer, but they had their own Amazon account and they decided they wanted to save money, so they started cutting services off their credit card and they went to Amazon, and after 28 warning dialogues, they deleted it and it destroyed all their stuff, gone forever. And
wow, yeah.
And I'm like, wow. So, yeah, and I was like, hey, you signed a contract, you're responsible for that. So, yeah, we don't, can't help you with that. It's gone. So yeah, David Angel was asking about how to upload a photo. I mean, this seems kind of dumb, but this is just a client. If you're over there in FileMaker, you just drag and drop or whatever you would do to put the image.
Yeah. So if I jump to my pictures folder, okay. So here's my pictures folder. I've got this thing. I think Andy Gaunt drew this picture of me actually. And so I'm going to drag this into there. Oops, I'm not in Skyscraper. Now I'm in Skyscraper. I'm going to take this picture. I'm going to drag it in. You can see the screen highlighting in the background as I drag it in there. Now I'm going to release the mouse. And when I release the mouse, it just got transferred to right there. There's my picture. And that's it in this horrible Windows Paint application.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's just honestly, it's just a matter of dragging and dropping the file that you want into the browser window, and then it'll appear in that folder.
Someone asked a question. They wanted to make sure that, and we got a lot of good comments from Ryan here. Is Ryan your person? I don't know. It seems like.
Yeah, he is. Ryan's
okay.
I got Adam and Matt upstairs and Ryan downstairs.
Okay, yes, Ryan's another one that's doing really great questions and answers here. But yeah, that's the whole idea. Is that he said the Microsoft license is built into EC2. When you buy an EC2 machine, regardless of whatever you put on it, if it's Linux, basically it's a free operating system. If it's Windows, then when you pay Amazon, part of that bill is being cut. Amazon at the end of the month or however they do this, they take a slice of that revenue and they send a check to Microsoft for you. You don't have to worry about that. It's all handled, right?
That's why Windows costs more than Linux.
Yep. This is really good stuff. And then if I got Delinsky and Lexi and a bunch of other heavy hitters coming, this is good stuff. Other questions we have as we're going to land the airplane. Lynn says, I'm surprised how fast the response is. This is also a good solution for my client who has a 1.5 gigabyte database that is not optimized for WebDirect. Lots of summaries to take a while to run on-prem now. This is really cool.
That solution right there that Lynn is talking about, that is the poster child for what this is the perfect use case for. You've got,
and assuming your server is not in the building where this person is at, right? So, I mean, yeah. So if the server is up, especially if it's up on Amazon, or you've been thinking about maybe using Amazon, maybe this is a reason to really use Amazon. Now, this is only available if we do hosting through you, or can we buy this and glue it onto our existing? How's this working for?
No, I've had a couple people ask that question. We didn't really anticipate that question at Engage. And so we just assumed that we would be hosting everything and that we would also do Skyscraper. But enough people asked us about it that it's on our kind of like to consider list. Is, should we make this available separately?
Well, for me personally, we already have our own Amazon servers. So for me to use this, I have to tell Jacob that,
I have had other Claris partners talk to me about that exact same thing, that they like the Skyscraper thing, but they already have their own hosting customers. It definitely makes sense. I get it. And I think it's probably something that is likely to we may very well unpackage those services at some point. One last thing to bring up, and which is like, if you want to try this out, obviously everybody's gotten to try out who wanted to try it right here with our servers. But if you want to spin up your own server, put your own files on it and try it out, you can go to 360works.cloud. You can set up an account there. We don't bill anything for if you cancel within 7 days. So basically set it up. One asterisk there, we don't bill anything for up to 5 Skyscraper boxes. If you set up 1,000 Skyscraper boxes and then 6 days and 59 hours.
Well, I was thinking about doing that actually. So
yeah, thanks, Richard. Thanks. Yeah, 6 days and 23 hours later, you say cancel it all. We're going to give you credit for 5 of those Skyscraper instances. So, but feel free to go on there, set it up. 360works.cloud, and then you can set up the Skyscraper boxes the same way you're seeing me do it, and then just try it, see what you think, see what your users think, and if it's not everything you want it to be, then just cancel within 7 days.
Yeah, I was just thinking about this. This brings up so many neat ideas. All right, well, you folks are awesome. It's a great
Richard,
day
thanks
today.
a lot for having me on. I'm so excited to have something exciting and new to get on your show with. I know you keep telling me I need to get on a show whether it's new or not, but when it is something new like this, and it's so new, by the way, we haven't sent out a press release yet. Like, we're still writing our press release to send it out. So this hasn't even really been announced yet. I just really wanted to get on and show people what we had because it's exciting when we've got something new to show off.
So we're inviting Jesse to come on anytime. The next scheduled time for Jesse is 2025. So if anyone wants to see Jesse again, let me know. We have no ETA on that, but
well, thank you very much. Thanks for having me on, Richard.
I appreciate it. You folks are awesome. We'll catch everyone tomorrow.
Love.